I want to tell you guys a story about a version of me who I'm not particularly very proud of. So, I'm 20 years old, I'm living in Chicago, I'm working at a restaurant, I'm smoking tons of weed, I'm drinking all the time, and I'm doing other shit that I'm gonna leave up to your imagination. So, at that time in my life, I had recently just been diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which brought me down from a pretty athletic kid in high school down to a whopping 146 pounds. At 6'3", mind you, 146 pounds. 2 years prior, I had turned down an offer to go play college football, which at the time felt like a decision, but in retrospect, it was more like a free fall that I refused to admit, so to speak. Also, at that time, I had just bought the game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Now, if you know anything about the game GTA San Andreas, you know there's a mechanic in the game where you take your character CJ, and inside his house, he's got a weight bench, and you can work him out and get him absolutely jacked. Now, this takes hours of in-game play, and trust me, I spent hours on getting CJ jacked, literally like it was my day job. The funny part is that it does basically absolutely nothing for the game. It doesn't affect how you complete the game, really doesn't help you out in any aspect other than it's more of just a cosmetic thing. And like I said, I spent hours getting my character CJ jacked. He was basically living his best life. He's hitting his macros, he's going to the gym, he's riding around with big smoke, and I was sitting on a couch smoking weed, haven't seen the inside of a gym in the better part 2.5 years or so at that point, weighing 146 pounds, loving life. And it did not stop there. This wasn't a one type of game thing. This was a pattern for me. At another point in my life, when I was still working in a restaurant, I had bought a Nintendo Switch, and I had bought the game Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Fantastic game, just so you guys know too. Anyways, in that game, there's a clear progression system. You cook food, your stamina goes up, you craft items, you get better. There's a linear progression so that you know exactly what you need to do to beat the game. And once again, I spent hours and hours doing all of the things in a game that I probably should have been doing in real life. Now this one's rather comical. One time, I went to Florida with my mom on vacation. I brought my Xbox, an Ethernet cable, I found the router in the condo, and yes, I plugged it in and spent the majority of my time in a dark room in Florida with a beach right outside my window playing Apex Legends into the dead of the night on vacation in Florida with my mom, because I was that anxious and that checked out from my own life that the only place where I could give my brain some sort of peace was inside the world of a video game where things actually made sense. And there was a system and a progression, and I always knew the next step. And that was comforting. Here's the thing I didn't understand at the time. I wasn't escaping because I was lazy. I wasn't escaping because I didn't care about my life. I was overwhelmed with what was going on in my life, and it just felt like I was aimlessly wandering. The problem is, I knew exactly kind of where I wanted to go, but I didn't know how to get there. I didn't have a roadmap, and it was frustrating, to be honest with you. And the easiest thing at that time for me was to escape through some sort of a system that felt linear. I was escaping because real life had no character sheet. In the game, you'd go to the gym and you'd get jacked. You'd eat the right food and your stamina and your energy would go up. You understood your stats, you could see your bottlenecks, and if you did the right inputs, you'd get the right outputs every single time without hesitation. It was actually something you could measure and feel, and that made sense to me. My actual body was a black box. I had no idea why I felt the way I did, why my weight had collapsed, why my energy was completely gone, why I had an autoimmune disease that I was constantly battling with. None of that actually made sense to me in the least bit. I had no data, I had no map, and I had a body that seemed to be operating on a rule set that nobody really had ever explained to me. So I went somewhere where the rules were visible. Look, that's not weakness. In my eyes, that's actually a pretty rational response to an information problem. What I know now, and what I wish I knew at 20, is that your body actually isn't a black box. It just looks like one when you don't have the proper data and rule set to follow. Every one of those things that I was experiencing, from the autoimmune response to the weight loss, energy crashes, the way food was affecting me, the anxiety, it all had inputs. All inputs with upstream variables. The system existed, I just didn't have access to it. What finally started turning things around for me was not a better workout problem, it wasn't a cleaner diet, it wasn't more discipline and motivation and all of the other things that the fitness industry will try and tell you that is your problem. The actual answers came from understanding my own biology, getting data on how my body was wired, why it was breaking down and where, and what my actual bottlenecks were. When you know that, the game actually becomes legible. The inputs start making sense, and the outputs start behaving the way that they're supposed to, and progress finally feels sustainable. This is what I was looking for in all those games. Not the escape, the legibility, the character sheet. I built Rebuilt because I needed it to exist. Not as a fitness program, not as a supplement brand, but as a system that actually gives you clarity on your health. It's a system that shows where your specific biology is actually working against your goals, and it builds a protocol around that instead of some generic templated plan that was designed for the average person. Which, by the way, does not actually exist. The average person is just some sort of statistical fiction, by the way. And look, you're not CJ from San Andreas. You don't get to reload from a save point, but you do get access to the same thing I was chasing in all of those games. A map that actually shows you where you are, what your stats are, and what you need to do next. That's it.